Have you ever had the feeling that everything you thought you knew is a lie? Everything from history, science, government, banking, money, law, economics, farming, energy production, water treatment, healthcare, even spirituality. As we awaken to truth, we're realizing that beneficial information in all these areas has been suppressed and revised in order to keep us enslaved and dependent upon a corrupt, debt-based system we can never pay off. Run by several private families, corrupt banksters invest in global wars to perpetuate the debt, control essential resources, and heap up value for themselves. We are at the point of a planetary shift. We all know it. We feel it. A tipping point. The low vibration of evil seems to be increasing, but in actuality, the higher vibration of light is increasing at a much faster pace. The matrix of darkness is deconstructing, and we are realizing that we have the potential within us to bring about the needed change. The old perpetuated slavery system was created with the sole intention of controlling people through various methods such as fictitious money systems, water, food, and chemicals, to name a few. In the old system, the few were the benefactors of all the Earth's resources at the expense of the people.
Now, you probably noticed I don't feel about that war the way we were told we were supposed to feel about that war, the way we were ordered and instructed by the United States government to feel about that war. You see, I tell you, my mind doesn't work that way. I got this real moron thing I do. It's called thinking. And I'm not a very good American because I like to form my own opinions. I don't just roll over when I'm told to. Sad to say, most Americans just roll over on command. Not me. I have certain rules I live by. My first rule, I don't believe anything the government tells me. Nothing. Zero. Nope. And I don't take very seriously the media or the press in this country, who in the case of the Persian Gulf War were nothing more than unpaid employees of the Department of Defense, and who most of the time function as kind of an unofficial public relations agency for the United States government. So I don't listen to them. I don't really believe in my country. And I gotta tell you folks, I don't get all choked up about yellow ribbons and American flags. Now, to balance the scale, I'd like to talk about some things that bring us together. Things that point out our similarities instead of our differences. Because that's all you ever hear about in this country is our differences. That's all the media and the politicians are ever talking about, the things that separate us, things that make us different from one another. That's the way the ruling class operates in any society. They try to divide the rest of the people. They keep the lower and the middle classes fighting with each other so that they, the rich, can run off with all the fucking money. Fairly simple thing, happens to work. You know, anything different, that's what they're going to talk about. Race, religion, ethnic and national background, jobs, income, education, social status, sexuality, anything you can do, keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank. You know how I describe the economic and social classes in this country? The upper class keeps all of the money, pays none of the taxes. The middle class pays all of the taxes, does all of the work. The poor are there just to scare the shit out of the middle class. Keep them showing up at those jobs.
Politicians know that word. They use it on you. Politicians have traditionally hidden behind three things: the flag, the Bible, and children. No child left behind. No child left behind. Oh, really? Well, it wasn't long ago you were talking about giving kids a head start. Head start, left behind? Someone's losing fucking ground here. But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The big, the wealthy, that The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. They're irrelevant. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets, and they own all the big all the big media companies. So they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. You know something? They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork, and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back, so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later, because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club.
Remember, the people who rule the world are psychopaths. They're con artists. They're masters of illusion. They're magicians. They're masters of misdirection. And that's how they manage to keep us where we are. If you can get our experts to take the first step in the wrong direction, tell them that most of our illnesses are due to inappropriate signals, forget cause and effect. We don't know the cause. There is no cause. Something's being done to us. It's a 100. It's not a 81 to 99, which has to do with our lifestyle choices. That's not the problem. No, don't look there. Don't let those negative effects occur. It's an inappropriate signal. Interfere with the body's communication process. Oh, it's okay to do that. You see, that's what most drugs do. There are blockers and inhibitors that interfere with the body's communication process. It's not complicated what they're doing, except it's like magic. Let's get a chemical that will either kill the keys, the hormones and the enzymes, or will block the locks, the receptors, and that's how our body communicates. It's a lock and key communication system. Hormones and enzymes go into receptor sites and tell the body what to do. Well, if you got something you shouldn't, it's not that you shouldn't have it, that you don't want, that's one way to keep from having it. But no one wants a negative effect, except it's there for a purpose. So we do want to have a signal if it's meant to be there. We don't want to interfere with that. That'd be the same thing as taking your car to a mechanic and saying, my engine light's hot, my engine light's on, could you fix it? Not a problem, come back in a couple hours. It may take me even longer, but I'll fix it. And all he does is clip the wire to the sending unit. All right, hell, I just removed the sending unit, and now it's an illusion. Look, the light doesn't come on. That's all. That's what drugs are doing to us, but they're poisons. The only other group of drugs they have that is in the same class would be the anti-whatevers, the antibiotics or whatever. We're going to kill something. They don't know how to build things up. They always knock things down. The only drugs that really are life-saving are when they use hormones from another animal. And that's not the same class as the three I just mentioned, where we have an anti-something of the others and blockers and inhibitors. And there are a few times when they can actually use those in operations because the heart's racing out of control, and they can give them a drug that can control the body. So there is a time and a place to put the cart before the horse. If the horse breaks its leg, you don't want it to keep running. You don't want it to bleed to death. So yeah, that's what doctors are good for. They control the body, and they don't allow the negative effect to happen. Well, we don't want you to die. Yeah, great. So you've got a purpose. You're good for the 104s. Things that are not 100% within our control. But guess what? The vast majority of our problems are 100% within our control. What's our problem? We lack the wisdom to know the difference. And that's by design. When you can control what people know, you can control what people do. And that's all you have to do to rule the masses. I've mentioned this before in other videos. There's a common link between solving every problem that's 100% within our control, conquering nations, and controlling the masses. And that common link has to do with satisfying our needs. It's really quite simple. How do you conquer a nation? You don't let them satisfy their needs. You enact an embargo. And that's an act of war. We do that all the time. That's the first act of war, when you enact an embargo on another country. But you don't let them satisfy their needs. That's how you destroy your enemy. How do you solve every problem that's 100% within our control? If it's within your control, it means it's what you're doing. Satisfy your needs. Do the right thing. Got to have the right knowledge for that. And then the last thing, how do you control the masses? Once again, it's the same principle. You don't let them satisfy their needs. You misdirect the so-called experts so they never have the right knowledge. That's an easy way to indirectly do it. If that doesn't work, we'll starve them out. They've done it before. Google Democide. Recently, the University of Hawaii discovered, by pushing the pencil to it, that there were 262 million people murdered during peacetime by the government because they were considered a threat to the powers that be because they knew what was going on. So there's too many of us now that know this. More and more people are waking up, but we don't really know what to do. All we seem to know what to do is to follow what controlled opposition wants us to do, and that is to just tell everybody what's happening. Don't ever focus on one thing. You see, to control the masses, it's not what we know that matters, it's what we do with what we know. That's why they always keep changing the subject. They don't say, in the Fed, and let's stick with it. Let's do it, and that's it. Instead, they'll have us worried about that for a couple months, and then they'll change it to something else so that we're being told something, so we think they're the experts, or that they're not controlled opposition, and then we'll be vulnerable to one little thing they're going to sneak in on us. Not only does controlled opposition not care what we know as much as what we do with what we know, but they'll tell us 1,000 things that are true just to get us to believe one lie that's crucial to them. And once you understand that, there's actually a test you can take, and you can say, okay, isn't that interesting? This guy's telling us a lot of good information, but every time he's on the air, he does something at least a dozen times or more, very subtly, and it seems like it's an appropriate thing to say, but that's just it. That trick's been used on us for a long time. Question everything. Your belief system is so far from where you think it should be, it isn't even funny. Even once you start waking up and you start realizing, oh my God, that was wrong, and that was wrong, and that was wrong, you've just begun. In fact, life is such an illusion on so many levels, it's mind-boggling. So, what do? It's simple. We're at a crucial time for our species. Never before has there been a time for a whole bunch of us to do something to get everyone else's attention. And we can reach the tipping point, and things will change so fast, it'll be amazing. The tricky part and the hard part, of course, is getting to the tipping point. It takes forever to reach critical mass, but once we get there, it's boom! And I've said this 1,000 times in my videos, and I got to emphasize it because things are never going to change unless we reach the tipping point. So you can click here, go to a seminar, so that you can get reconnected. This is the problem our species has, and if you've watched any of my videos, you've heard me talk about this over and over. We have become disconnected. The fall of mankind destroyed a nutrient that feeds one of our senses. We lost one of our senses. We are literally disconnected. That's why we suffer, and why we have a dark side to our behavior. It's why we prey systematically on our own kind. It's why we have the wrong mentality. We have an exchange mentality instead of a gift mentality. There's something wrong with us, and it all has to do with what we eat. So it's so hard to stop eating the wrong food because we still want to eat, and even if we're eating the best of foods, eventually you'll probably give in, more than likely. So the best way to control things that are controlling you is just to stop eating anything solid at all, which is what my first step is all about. So click here, go to a seminar I uploaded, if you already haven't done this. If not, then you already know the next step. You're on the hero's journey, keep doing it, keep going the way you're going. There's a lot of information to learn, so you can help other people. But you got to share the message. That's the most important thing you can do. More important than whatever to learn more about what's going on is to let people know that this knowledge exists. This is so important, and this could go viral so quick if just enough of us started sharing this. So share all of my videos with everybody you know. I haven't been pushing people to hit the like button and subscribe, but I've got a great message. And I think anybody who's watched my video understands that by now. And I'm not getting any hits because I've been in hiding for so long. I have no presence at all, so I need y'all's help. Do what you can to get this message out. A lot of y'all know what I'm saying is spot on. And the great thing about what I'm saying is you don't have to take my word for it, and I don't want you to. But I'd sure like you to test an idea as time has come. And guess what? When you do it, you're in for a treat.